Guys, welcome back to Liquid Art. Today's painting is going to be this water lily painting. It's all in acrylic, designed for beginners, and all going to be step by step. So here's our setup for today. Another thing that I haven't got out already is a little bit of cardboard that you're going to need for this. Thick or little, it's entirely up to you guys. It just helped push a bit of paper out. We've got our canvas board here in the centre, which is a square one today. You can of course use another one if you want. We've got a HB pencil and then our 3 paint brushes, big, medium and small. We've got a kitchen towel, our paint water, and then over here on our palette we've got the acrylic colours, black, blue, turquoise, yellow, pink and white. You can of course use different colours if you like, but these are the ones I'm going to teach today. So we're going to jump right in. Our first step, we're going to draw out where our composition is going to be. So we're going to start by doing our lily pad. So this one is kind of like a heart shape. And then we're going to cover that up, overlapping it with a lily pad in the corner here. So it's just a circular shape. So now we're going to go and do the bottom of the water lily here. So it's kind of got a lily pad underneath it, and then we're going to draw the shape of the flower itself. So it's just a rough idea for now. This doesn't need to be perfect or anything. We're going to paint over it later anyway. And then we're going to do these petals. So they're kind of pointed, a little bit rounded out as well. And I've got this flower really nice and big in the center. If you want to add more in and kind of have the smaller ones, go for it. But this is the shape that I'm going to do. I'm now going to do the rough idea of the water lily in the background. So this is just another circular shape with the lily pad having that little split in the middle here. Good, so this is our composition done. So we're done with our pencil for now. We're now going to take our big paintbrush and we're going to start painting the background. So big paintbrush, give it a really good wash and then dab off that excess water. We're then going to make a navy colour. So we're going to use some blue, a little bit of black and some white. This is kind of making a grey steel navy colour, and we're just going to use this to paint the background. This is the water of our painting. So I'm just using the edge of my brush to go around the edges. You can of course use a smaller paintbrush. If you're a beginner, it's going to be a lot easier if you do that, but I'm just going to use this for now. We are going to cover these colours up anyway later on. So now we're going to paint between this section here, and then we're going to bring it around the top of our canvas. And we're going to paint between our petals. So don't worry if you've covered it over too much and you can't see your lines anymore. We will sort this out later, and when we build up the petals, we won't be able to see any of the background bits coming through over the petals or anything like that. It's just easier if we paint the background now rather than trying to add it in later. So now what we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit of white to the paint that we've already put onto our canvas, just to lighten it a little bit. Remember, we are going to have a shadow put into the water at some point on here, so I'm just adding a little bit of white now just to make it a little bit softer. And also some turquoise just to brighten it up. You guys can keep it that colour though if you prefer it, but I just want to brighten it up a little bit using that turquoise and some white. So now you're going to give your paintbrush a really good wash, a little bit of a dry, and what we're going to do is we're going to blend this paint that's already on the canvas. So make sure your brush is nice and clean, and we're just going to rub this paint that's already on our canvas together. So now I'm just giving this paintbrush a really good wash. We're done with it for a few minutes. I'm just going to put it to the side. I'm then going to take my medium paintbrush, and what we're going to do is we're going to take some of our yellow and our turquoise and mix it together here to make a nice green. And what we're going to do, we're just going to paint this colour into our lily pads. So we're going to put a few different colours of green into this. So we're just going to paint this in for now. Make sure you don't cover up where you've drawn your lily for this one, and you bring it right to the edge of the paint that we've already put onto the canvas. Good, so once we've done that one, we're going to go on to these lily pads down here. And same again, you're just painting these in. You can cover up the line between them as well if you need to. And then we're going to add some other tones of green to it later on. So now I'm just going to wash my paintbrush and I'm going to pick up some yellow. And we're going to paint this straight onto our lily pads. We're just going to change these green colours just slightly by adding different tones into them. So now we're going to take some blue and mix it with some yellow here on our palette. So we've got a darker green this time. So I'm not covering the whole of the lily pad with this colour, I'm just using it on certain parts. And it's good for this bit to divide up between the two lily pads. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white and brush it into this part here. So we're using the dark green to be further away and the light green to be more in the foreground, okay? So we're just playing about with between light and dark, using that white paint and using that darker green. It's just going to give our lily pads a nice 3D effect as well. Now I'm done with that medium paintbrush and I'm taking my smallest paintbrush this time with some black. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the shadows in the water for the lily pads and the flower. So we're just going to paint around this section here and make sure you're just following the shapes of whatever you're making the shadow of. So for that lily pad, it was a nice curved one. For this section here, it's just a little bit away and it's showing the shape of that part of the lily pad that we're making the shadow for. So now for this bit, we're going to do it for the petals of our Waterlilies flower. So I'm just going to try and recreate what I did above with just a few different petal shapes. They don't need to be exactly the same. Nobody's going to be like, that's the wrong one or anything like that. You're just doing a rough idea of a few different shapes. Just try not to make it all blocked out. You want to still see that it is a flower reflection. And now this bit, we're going to do it between these two water lilies. So we're just bringing it across and it's only going across the water. We still want the water lilies to be seen, so we're just doing a few sections here of the shadow, but it's just in the water using that black colour. So now with all this shading and these shadows, you just want to make sure that you haven't drawn kind of an outline around every bit of the flower or the lily pad. It just won't work. You just want to have a few little bits of this dark colour just showing a bit of a reflection in the water. So now the next bit I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a bit of a dark green and I'm just going to brush a few little bits into these lily pads here, just so that we've got a bit more of a shadow going on. So I'm going to take my smallest paintbrush, and I did use dark blue and I found it went a little bit too dark, so actually I'm going to use a green this time instead. So just a little bit of a dark green and you're just going to brush it around this section here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to using some of the lighter colours. So what you'll need to do now is wash your paintbrushes, give them a really good wash in that water, just make sure they're a little bit clean. And then as you can see, my paint water is really dark and dirty, so I want you to go and change that for me now. So now we're back with our clean water. What we're going to do is we're going to start working on the lighter colours within the flower. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take my big paintbrush, I'm going to mix some pink and white together to make a really nice soft white. And what white paint will also do is it will make it more opaque when we use acrylics. So it's going to paint over the bits of our background, a bit of our lily pad and stuff, so it's going to be perfect for just creating our petal shape going over that background. So we're just going to do a few different shapes here, and notice I haven't kind of filled it in doing like horizontal crosses or anything like that. I'm going with the shape of the flower. So we're just going to do a few different bits here, and then we're going to build it up with some lighter tones and some darker tones later on. So now I'm just going to take my smaller paintbrush rather than the big paintbrush so that I can really fine point using some white parts of our petals. So just the tips of them, we just want a bit of a better shape. Using the smaller paintbrush will just give a little bit more control to that. So if you look at my petals here, as I'm painting over the top of our blue background, you'll notice that the white of my paintbrush has actually picked up some of those darker tones. Don't worry about it too much if yours has done this as well. If you really don't like it, we can cover it up later on using some white and some other colours. But for now, I'm just going to leave mine. I feel like it makes, it kind of ties the background in with the foreground a little bit. So the back of the blues coming through, I don't think is a problem. It kind of just gives it a little bit more texture going on. So now what I'm doing here is I'm taking some of the white and I'm just brushing it into these pink parts of the petal. So I'm trying to keep it towards the edge a little bit more, and it's just giving it a little bit more of that 3D. It's like the light is hitting it in certain ways. And also when I'm doing this, I'm trying to make sure that the white is towards the top of the petal and the pink is more towards the bottom of the petal. So now for this next bit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of that blue black colour that we used earlier, mix it together so it's super nice and light, and we're just going to use it towards the bottom of our flower just slightly so that we've got a bit of shadow going on. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take some of our yellow and our pink and mix it together to make a bit of a peachy orange colour. And we're just going to dab it here into the centre of our flower just to make that pollen effect. And then we're just going to add a little bit more yellow into that as well, just to bring it out a little bit because it's blended in with the pink a little bit too much. So just popping it on here. And then we're going to let this dry, and when we finish doing the rest of our petals, we're going to add a little bit of black dots into this as well. Nice. So for the next bit, you're going to take your kind of navy colour that we used earlier. You might want to add a little bit of white into this so it's a little bit lighter. And what we're going to do is just a few little shadows around the bottom of our petals. So you don't have to do this on everyone, we're just going to do it on a few. I'm actually going to create a bit of a petal pointing towards me in this bit here, so I'm just cutting it off and just showing that it's kind of pointing this way a little bit. And we're just going to do a few little ones on here. This doesn't need to be perfect, you can just do a few little bits as we're going to build up with some more paint in a second. So once we've done this bit, you guys can leave your painting here if you want. If you're happy with it, you can skip this step. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to make this quite fun, and we are going to make it a little bit more abstract using a bit of cardboard. So if you have a bit of cardboard, please go and grab it now. You only need a really tiny little bit. Mine was about 1 inch squared, so you just need that. So now I'm back with this bit of cardboard, and what I'm going to do is I'm just dipping it into a bit of the white paint, and I'm just going to gently scrape it along. If you don't have a bit of cardboard, just use a paintbrush for this bit if you want to. We're just layering it on quite thick, and we're actually going to leave it drying for a little bit longer, and it's going to have a really nice effect once it's dried. So I'm just dabbing this on, I'm kind of scraping it into the paint a little bit. Just a few little bits of that white, it's just laying on nice and thick. And now I'm going to take some pink and do the same. And what it's going to do, it's going to mix in with that paint that's already on the canvas just a little bit, and actually the grooves in the cardboard are going to make a few different textures as well. So with this thick bit of paint, it's made a really lovely different effect going on here. So you can obviously just skip that step and just left the painting as it was. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and work on some of our lily leaves a little bit more. So I've mixed a really nice light green using some of the blue, the yellow and the white. And I'm just painting back over the lily pads that we did before, but you can still see that green that we used before underneath it just a little bit, but I just wanted to make these a little bit brighter. So for this bit, I've just taken my medium brush rather than the little brush, just because it's a bigger area, and the same with this bit. I'm just using that lighter green, and I really like how it's just brightened it up a little bit more. It doesn't look such a weird emerald green colour. I wanted it to be a bit more of a leafy colour. So the last little bit that we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit into where the pollen is. It's very it doesn't get much attention at the moment, so I'm just dabbing a little bit of black into it here. So all I've done is put a tiny bit of black on my brush. I haven't covered it, I've just done a little bit. And we're done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this painting. We'd love to see how you did. So please send in what you've done and share this video. See you next time.